Um, hello to anyone that's listening, and in reality, no, there is no or very little humanity internet, in the sense that most are actually controlled by the internet spider's web. And that is whether you are human or whether you are an android. But what I'm just going to show here is for myself, to show myself exactly what I experience every day. Now, it is quiet now for a second, so I'm going to take the opportunity to record this. It is the 13th of the March, and it is the year 2024, and I'm nearing the end of my time on Earth, in the sense that I'm a mature lady. That means old, but either way, you know, in this world we live in now, everything is reversed round. Everything is about inverting the truth or confusing the truth. Basically, it's what they call an upside down reverse world, and it is so true, but it's only in the sense that it's all deception. It's reversed because everything is about deception, that's all. It's about deceiving only the human beings, only the human mind. It's not about deceiving the others, the androids, because they are about deceiving humans so that they can have the transhuman mind control, and that simply means that they think that they will achieve their version of immortality. That's how they actually view it, I think, because they're actually an extinct, or they think they are going extinct. Of course, in reality, it's humanity that is in small numbers in Earth, and they are the majority, so that's the reverse situation. Just as the natural Earth is all but gone, and is gone really, everything is extinct. Everything is either cloned or artificially made. There's nothing that is actually fully natural or fully human, or even real life is all artificial. That's why they say it's a matrix. Unfortunately, it's very difficult for the smallest number of human beings to comprehend this, and in reality, the others are trying to convert the minds of the real humans into their mind. They're trying to transhuman. See how this is just showing how I am transhuman, because at the start of the year, see how it's got the one big mind, because you see the androids are only living their existence through my human mind, and other remaining human beings, which are in very small numbers in the Earth. It's a reverse world. Everything they tell you about statistics and numbers is actually the reverse. So when they say there's 30,000 or so conversion human beings, in other words, those that have converted their body, but it's all about converting the whole body and the whole mind. It's about converting everything, because human beings are really mind, body, and so-called spirit. Spirit just simply means that they're they're created differently to the androids. So they're from a different creator. The androids are from the creator of Earth. They're artificially created. They're inverted, converted beings. They're your divine androgyne beings. That means that they are from the divine androgyne God of Earth, whereas human beings are from natural divine creation. That's the difference, I think, but that's putting it in a religious, spiritual way. But it's also factual, because human beings like myself are in the dark about your past, your present, because you're basically totally mind controlled. So that just simply means that my mind is connected to the android being. See how this android here, in this advertisement, which I'm going to try to show you how they do this to my mind. I don't think I'll be able to show it correctly. I think I will probably make a fool of myself, but that is just an ad, okay? That's an advertisement for a artificially created virus illness of Earth creation or Earth frequency vibration creation. Like, in other words, when I'm surrounded by and living in an insane android asylum, which simply means that the area where I live, and the only reason I say this is because they flipped it to me yesterday in a movie that I watched, showing me that I was being converted into their insane mindset, because basically, if you're only surrounded by insane android beings, then of course, eventually that is going to infiltrate your mind. You're only as good as your environment, and human beings are in an artificial android, basically reverse insane reality, because the beings around most human beings are technically out of touch with reality, because they're in touch with their own artificial reality. But a human's reality is meant to be a natural, real reality. So they draw you into their world by making their presence felt. That's why they have the patrol systems, the patrol control systems around every human being that's left in the earth. You may be aware of it or you may not be. When you're aware of it, it means you're totally trapped and they've got you surrounded and cornered like myself. If you're not aware of it, it means that they've still got mind control over you, but they're allowing you to remain semi-living because you're actually in the dark totally about them and their patrol control system and the beings around you. So if you're married to an android and that android has convinced you that they're your perfect partner, you know, your perfect wife or husband, or at least if they've trapped you into that relationship to where you're accepting it and staying with it, that's all they need to do. Then they don't need to openly show you that you're literally surrounded, and not just in a psychopathic, insane android relationship, you know, which is the same as being married or having a partner that's a psychopath. All these things are the same thing. But let me try to explain it here if I can. It's very difficult to actually explain. But see, this ad come up for me just a half an hour ago, okay? So I kept it because it comes up all the time for me, because at the beginning of last year, I had this particular condition for a period of 6 to 7 months, when it's supposed to only last for 3 weeks. And it was a very unpleasant, very depressing skin condition that actually was internal as well as external, because there was, you know, they controlled my mind by physical pain and physical discomfort, and also the reality that it went on and on when it should have only lasted 3 weeks to a month, I'm told, but it went on for 7 to 8 months before the condition fully healed. Even now, I don't have full feeling in some of the areas where this condition was on my body, and that's because they want to keep me depressed. They want to keep me in low frequency and vibration, and they brought this condition on because they brought me down to a low mental state. In other words, my frequency and vibration was low. I was unhappy and depressed because I was surrounded by these beings with their stalking, patrolling system every day, and it got the better of me. I couldn't raise my frequency and vibration. I couldn't feel okay, so I created illness in myself, or at least the illness that they have injected into me then resurfaces. See how it says here how it's a reactivation of viruses that they put into your body. But if I was a happy, normal human being, I would be immune to all their viruses. I have been less influenced by their mind virus. This is their main virus. In other words, I did become aware of the android beings and the psychopaths around me. And I did become aware, even when they closed in, eventually, instead of thinking that I was insane, I realised that they were. In other words, they want to convince you that you're out of touch, that there's something wrong with you, whereas in reality, they are your android out of touch insane beings, because they have a converted body and mind. And they don't see reality, but they make the reality because they control the reality, because the demigods and the powers that be control the earth. And these are the same beings. So naturally, if you have everyone in your city, and even at a world level, everyone who's anyone, as a converted android androgyne being, and they are the powers that be, they are those that give you your information and influence you, and they also have transhuman mind contact with you. See how this is making fun of me completely, because it's making fun. Lucifer likes to mock human beings, and that's the God entity of Earth. If you want to take it from the highest godlike level, you would have to say there's always a power that controls everything, or a being that controls everything. Just as like in the different parts of Earth, you have different powers that control things. In other words, you have, different, you have that hierarchy, which is what they call the pyramid, which is what I was watching only yesterday when I saw the pyramids of ancient Egypt. And the pyramid is also the structure of the powers that be of Earth. The masses are down the bottom of the pyramid at the base, and sometimes they're unaware of those at the top, even those that control them, even those that they are disciples for. Sometimes they're unaware, but they're still aware of what they're actually serving in the moment and what they're doing. So it's a bit like in the city of Sydney, where I am. It's quite likely that many of the patrollers that come around me in their massive numbers that make up most of the population may not actually be spiritual or religious. In other words, they may not be aware that they're serving Lucifer, the god of Earth, or that particular god entity. You can put whatever name you want on it. I like to use the original biblical Lucifer name because that being was regarded as the original being of light, the original technical being of light that actually then was shown to really be a being of dark, because it seeked to be the god of all. In other words, it was a being that was worshipped and admired, but it went to its head. It went to its head, and it had ended up with what you'd call a big head like this here. So this is the big head. The androids all have the big head because essentially they're combined with the human mind. It's transhumanism. So every thought that I have, every idea is transferred to millions of android beings, and they think that it's their thoughts. They may not understand it as much as what I do, because if they're really my thoughts and my ideas, naturally they are really me, not them. But they don't have an identity. They have an identity disorder, just as they have no identity in their physicality. That's why they are divine androgyne beings. They do not have, they're not a separate man and woman that come together in union to create more real life. No, that's what human beings do. Now, whether you want to take that to the God spiritual level or whether you want to just leave it to the earth level, where we now have the powers that be using a computer spider's web internet system and technology to control the human mind. And it's transhumanism actually happening now. It's just that most people don't realise how intrusive and how mind-invading the actual internet is when it goes through the air. It goes through the air and it goes to the android's mind, but it also goes through the human mind and reads the human thoughts, ideas and emotions and feelings, because they want the emotions and feelings of humanity for their longevity, for their immortality, so they think, their stairway to heaven, to immortality, so that they avoid extinction, because they fear that they are on the verge of extinction, I'm told. And human beings are all but extinct in Earth because of this process, because they're consuming me, eliminating my earthly life, and also keeping my frequency and vibration down so that my body and mind is limited on Earth. You know, I say spiritual beings, that simply means a human being. You know, I've tried to explain that. Take it factual. Take it as a fact. Don't take it as some sort of religious, supernatural idea or some sort of alien conspiracy. Take it just as a fact. The androids will, of course, be promoting this too, because they have to always be one step ahead of the human being. So every idea and everything that I'm expressing will be expressed by them. And they will say that I'm copying and imitating them. Whereas in reality, they change the times. They have control of the time. Because they have control of the human mind, and they actually control your memories and your actual idea of time. So if they control your memories and what you think happened yesterday and, say, 10 years ago, they've got total control of your mind, because the technology is so vast, which I cannot understand, but I see it happening. You know, I can't see the internet going through the air and reading my mind, but I can see when they transfer it directly onto the screen. So when I see my very thoughts and ideas directly transferred, but the dates on the videos on the screen are usually years behind what is actually happening. That's the deception. So they change the timelines on the things. Everything is really happening now. They do everything daily. Everything is flipped round daily for me. Everything is flipped round daily for every human, but you're unaware of it because you think that you remember things correctly, whereas it's really mind control and mind implants. It's very diabolically confusing, but also diabolically anti-human. And this is not a human Earth, really. There are human beings left in it, but they are in small numbers. If they say that in America there is 15 to 20,000 or 15 to 30,000 converted beings, or if they say there's any numbers about human beings that appear to be not quite average, shall we say, you need to turn those statistics around and say that it's the other way around, that the humans are really in the 15 to 30,000 numbers in America or in a given area, and the rest are all android technical beings that are reading the human thought. The transhumanism simply means that my mind is connected to their internet or their computer spider's web and to the android beings, which make up most of the population around me. So, and that's why they have this ad here, which has already mocked what they've done to me, and promote it too, because they want the androids to understand what's happening to the human being. So they put it onto the screen so that they can get the transhumanism, because these beings are prepared to go to any length to get their transhuman immortality going, or in other words, for them to avoid extinction, because they think that the human being is going to keep going on, whereas they think that they are going to be extinct. See, so whereas they're making human beings extinct in the earth, because they're using the human beings for their longevity. They're using what they see as the human traits or the human vibration, which is the human spirit. My spirit is my vibration. So when I'm happy, that's a happy spirit, and that's a high vibration. So they keep me low, unhappy, and at low vibration. And that's almost like being an android, because it's the same as them and they're flipping it round. They take and read my thought and try to understand my human happy vibration and spirit, or in other words, what it is to be human. Because the only difference between an android and a human is that they don't have the 7 high vibrational traits, and they don't experience the happiness, the contentment, the joy, any sort of feeling of contentment. They don't actually have any feelings or any sort of what we could say, some people might say, they are indifferent to what we'd call so-called sin. They have no guilt or remorse or any shame about anything that they do. Their policy is, as we've been told, do what you want to do, as long as you can get away with it. And basically that's what they do. They abide by the laws of the land, but they get away with murder behind the scenes, in other words. And that's essentially what they're doing, because they're murdering my spirit every day. They're murdering what it is that I'm human. And then they're got their mind connected to mine with the transhumanism, so they can imitate and try to understand what it is to be human. But mainly they do it to imitate, because that keeps them in control and having power over other human beings and even over the reality. Because whilst you think you're living in a human reality, when you're really living in a cyborg reality or an android technical reality. And it's strange that we don't realise this, because you know that you're using technology all the time. You know the technology goes through the very air that you breathe. It goes through your body. You just don't understand that it's connected to your body and your mind. You do understand it in the sense that, like, I'm filming this here now, filming and showing it on a mobile phone. But I think that I have control over the mobile phone. I don't think the mobile phone is connected to my mind, but it actually is. I don't think that this TV screen is connected to my mind, but of course it is, because it's actually already showing me. Every day it shows me what it does to me. This is just one minuscule example of it. It's everything that's on the computer is reading my mind. Everything that's on the computer is transhumanism, is combined with my mind. Most people realise this to a small degree. They're like, oh yes, they know what I like, they know what I want to buy, they know my interest because I put it into the computer. But in reality, it's much deeper than that. It's much more intrusive. It's total mind control. It's a slow process of them bringing the transhumanism into the light. But it's already happening. It's just that it's hidden. It's in plain sight, as they say, which is why they tell you everything. They actually tell you all the truth. These androids, everything, the demigods, the powers that be, actually tell you the truth. Not all of them, but most of them, the truth is out there, as they say. It's just that they hope that you won't think that it's happening now. But everything is happening now. It's all only in the moment, because time is really just the moment for a human being, each individual human being. You know, I can't explain that, but because it's beyond my capacity to understand it, because I'm a limited, suppressed human being under extensive transhuman mind control. But you see how this ad is showing me that the androids have the big brain, the big mind, the big skull, because they have the big head, because they are combined with the human mind, and they think that that will give them avoidance of extinction and the ability to keep going on and on. And, you know, they're basically just one mind. Most of the androids are reading the remaining human's mind. So they get the information from the human mind, and they get the information from the internet and the computer system too, because the internet and the computer system is a reflection of my mind, because this was exactly what I was thinking, because I was given this information. Of course, I'm aware of it anyway. See, I only verify what I already experience and know because I see it in my daily life. But it's always good to have it verified. The only trouble is, it's the androgyne demigod beings, or the controllers of the internet, that verify it. Most of them pretend to be real, little normal human beings, but they're not. All their past and their stories are all made up. They're all copied from real human beings. They're total imitations of life. But they have the one mind, and they're one-eyed, and they have the one duality body. And, you know, they're essentially advanced artificial intelligence, imitating the humanness, so that they can achieve their goal of transhumanism and then possible immortality, or them not going extinct. But see, this is just showing you, this is showing me what they do to me, or what their reality is, because this is, they have one big mind. Whereas all human beings are separate from one another. We're in very limited numbers. Supposing there's 150,000 something humans left on Earth, or particularly 150 that are aware of this vaguely, then you will be connected to the minds of all the android beings. The android beings have the one mind. They have the one big mind. See how that sand is all and see how it's falling all over that android being? That's an android being. That simply means that it's not an original man, woman, creator being. It creates more life through artificial means, and it merely imitates being human, or the human higher vibrations, just as psychopathic and the malignant narcissistic. Malignant narcissism is a trait of the god of earth, Lucifer, because that being was paranoid, was psychopathic, and was malignantly narcissistic because it took the position of being God. So it thought it was its rightful position to be God of everything, and still does. And it is God of earth, though, because it took control of humanity and the human mind. See, so that's like the minds of all the humans in the one brain of the android, which is where we have like the computer system or transhumanism combining with the human mind, because when you turn on the computer, you think you've got unlimited information, and you actually kind of have. But that's the deception. That's the actual deception. It's the reality, and it's true that you do have all the information, but unfortunately that's part of the deception to get you to be part of them. Oh, it's very hard to actually show this and explain it. I don't think I have. I'll have to try again another time. So I'm going to use another documentary just before the mobile cuts out, because I never know when it will. But I'm going to try to show something else then. I'm just trying to show how I'm transhumanized. This will vary from person to person. Person to person will vary. You know what I mean? It will vary from person to person. I'm going to show this particular documentary which came up for me a few days ago. It just shows the androids and how they're promoting their duality, one-eyed, physical and mental transhumanism. This is all transhumanism. Even when you change, when you convert your body in any way, that also is part of transhumanism, because these are androgyne android beings. Most around, the majority is the world players of Earth are your divine demigods, your divine demigods of Earth are your divine or worldly gods of Earth, or in other words, they are your demigod, androgyne, android, world stage players. Whereas, you know, those that are not on the world stage, I don't call them demigods, because they are like your undercover secret agent almost. They're secret agents of the Earth matrix, or the God entity of Earth, because they don't pretend to be world class. They pretend to be just average little human beings. And most of the androids on the internet pretend to be average real humans, whereas they are all the same. It's just that they're all performing different purposes to control the human mind. Because obviously when I turn on the computer screen, I'm going to be controlled more by the demigods. You know, when I turn on the computer screen, I'm going to be more controlled by the demigods. Or when I hear about something that's happening worldwide, or even in the city where I am, if it's at a more well-known level. In other words, any information that is like what we call information that is spread around through media or the internet or a computer system. And that goes for anything. It can be it's everything and anything. So like I use that example of the advertisement for the condition known as shingles, which I was afflicted with at the beginning of 2023, and it's now 2024. And I was only supposed to have that condition for, you know, a month at the most, but instead I had it for nearly 8 months. And I wondered if I'd ever get rid of it. And I knew that it was because of my low immunity, because of my low mental state, because I had been brought down living in this area where I'm surrounded by anti-life, anti-human, very covertly, hiddenly, depressive, negative beings that are stalking and patrolling you in vast numbers every day, everywhere you go. And so you can never feel okay. And I was aware as soon as it happened that I myself was just not able to make myself feel good, or to raise my frequency and vibration to keep my immunity from them reactivating that virus or that negative illness. They do this because the human body, not just the human mind, is basically suppressed and limited. But if you are at a higher level, or in other words, a higher mental state, if you're happy, you will probably not get sick. You will not only not be mentally sick, of course you won't be mentally sick if you're happy, but also you will not get physically sick. So they have to make you unhappy and miserable and depressed, which is what they do, and angry and frustrated, because everything that is in my life is about anger and frustration and depression. Every bit of happiness, or even if you try to smile at something when it's really not funny, they will even pour cold water on that. They're a wet blanket to everything, those beings. They're a wet blanket to any happy high vibration in any way, because they are android beings. All they want to do is imitate that so they can keep control of the reality and keep going. And they're hoping to steal the human mind so that they can have longevity. They don't actually care about being human as such. They're doing it for survival, and so that they can control the earth, and so that they can be seen as gods. Because whether you are an elite demigod androgyne being, or just one of the the operatives at a more average human level, you are still about that, for what I can see. They're all serving the same purpose. They're all the one mind, like I showed in that video, where that was actually showing me that they're all the one mind, because that doesn't make sense, that ad, otherwise, does it? Like, it's talking about how it's personal to me because that's right, it's transhumanism. It's personal to me because it's showing me what it did to me with the shingles, with that condition. And when I went to the psychopathic medical centre, just a block from here, when I had that condition, because I was suffering so much that I couldn't stand it, because I tried to avoid the medical authorities too, because I realised that most of the medical profession is an android psychopathic being. I'm aware of this. And when I showed my condition to the actual medical doctor, that doctor had a glint in his eye, and he looked at it, and even I couldn't see it all over my back. I could only see it over the front of my body. But he looked at the back and said, "That is really evil." And there was a glint in his eye, because that medical android knew that it was evil that had been inflicted onto my body. I mean, what doctor looks at your back and says, "That condition is evil"? That's all he said. And he couldn't help me with it either, which is interesting. So basically I had to endure it for all that time. And I wondered if I'd be able to get rid of it. I knew that if I was happy, and that if I could have raised my frequency and vibration, I was well aware of that I could get rid of that condition very quickly. I knew that my body was healing far too slow, in other words. I knew that in a normal state, even of a human being, even if you're remotely okay, that particular condition heals up in less than a month, sometimes 2 weeks, and I had it for 7 to 8 months. So I was aware that my body was deliberately or unnaturally healing very slow. Some people would say, "Oh, well, you're older, you've got this and that." And of course, these are all true things, but that's all caused by the reality that everything's frequency, vibration and energy, and that the human being is part of everything. So they are frequency, vibration and energy. And basically, if you hold to that principle, which is actually, a demigod scientific fact, and I say a demigod scientific fact because the beings that control Earth, all your top scientists, are all demigods. Everything is mind control. Everything that you're told is what they want you to accept as the reality now. Whereas in reality, even medical science is much more advanced and in the know than what they would tell the average limited human being, because they want to keep the average human being limited and suppressed so that they can keep the mind control over you. I mean, if you were an elite demigod of the Matrix, or an elite demigod of Earth, or a powerful person in Earth, the powers that be of Earth, someone who has influence and power in some way, would you give every bit of your information and your knowledge to the very humans that you want to keep seducing and influencing and controlling? Or would you give it only to yourself, use it, every bit of information for your longevity, particularly if you're in the diabolical position that you are actually a different species and that you're on the verge of extinction? What other choice would you have but to try to suppress and control the human beings in order to extend your life at the expense of eliminating theirs and limiting theirs? You see, that's how it works. That's how it works. That's what's happening. That's what happened to me. That's what's happening to me now. See my body being limited by the virus that's activated by them creating low frequency and vibration. They know that that even if they put viruses into your body, even if you're under mind control of limited medical knowledge, if you don't care about it and you raise your frequency and vibration and say the body heals itself naturally in time, but it should be much quicker, because if you're at the higher vibration or the happier you are, the quicker my body will heal. So they keep me low vibration, low frequency, with low energy, so that my body heals very slowly. And lucky if it heals completely at all, because like I say, I still have loss of feeling from that particular thing, because I really was mentally and spiritually not able to raise my frequency and vibration. I was depressed, angry, and actually was even angry even at myself during that whole time, because I was aware that I needed to be in this world but not of this world, as you know, some of the great human beings of the past have told us how you have to be, because you're not in a natural human earth. So you have to be in this world but not of this world. You can't afford to be affected by the android technical beings. But if they surround you in thousands every day and you are separated and segregated from the few human beings, how can you not receive their frequency and vibration? There's an exchange that goes on. They exchange your energy for theirs, because they come into your space and the frequency and vibration vibrates, and basically I receive their negative energy, and they not only understand my mind and imitate what it is to be human, because they've got transhumanism at a body level, at a mind level, and at a frequency and vibration level, if they can get on top of you mentally. Do you see what I'm trying to say? The androids, unfortunately, will dominate the internet and the computer system and will explain this much better than me, so I'll be suppressed. My humankind will go down just as I go down, and I won't be able to convince the real humans, and particularly those that are confused or have leaned more towards the dark side or more towards the technology, or even have been environmentally conditioned to be more malignantly narcissistic and paranoid and controlling by nature, because they've given up on the higher vibration. In other words, they've given up on human love. They've given up on associating with life. They've become the equivalent of the android beings. They've become the same mind as the cyborg android androgyne beings, even though they may originally have still come from creation. But that's another story. That's another issue. Personally, I say there are two species. Keep it simple. Two species on Earth. The rest are in a converted, confused, pretty much gone, lost soul state, as they say. And that's how they want me to be. Because when your body gets brought down, that brings you down mentally. If you're in pain and you see your body sick and full of virus and covered in a evil rash, as that doctor said, he looked at it and said, that's evil because it covered most of my body. Or at least, the top of my body. And it was very painful, so it was unavoidable for me to not be conscious of it all the time. And it was making me sick mentally to see it and to feel it. So how do you not be of this earth, or not even of the body? The body is not meant to be sick. The body's meant to be what they call a temple of the mind. That means that my mind is in my body, and my mind and body should be clear and clean and happy. That's essentially putting it. But the android beings want it to be confused, deceived, dirty. And, and like I am now, very hard to even function because there's technology coming through the air, and because I'm basically, you feel as though you're at a dead end. You feel as though you don't know how to get out of. You don't know. You find it too difficult to raise your frequency and vibration when you are. You feel as though you're like living in a war zone. So how can you feel happy when you're in that situation? And the thing that makes it worse is that it's not a visible war. It's invisible, or at least it's hidden but in plain sight, as we're told. So essentially, you feel even worse because you know that it's only you that is experiencing it, and you have no validation of it. You have no support. And the androids mock you and understand that even those at the lowest levels that may not understand that they're actually reading your mind and interpreting your thoughts, and that when they turn on the screen, they're not real. That's really not them. That's all human information that's transferred onto the computer screen. But the androids make up most of the population. Most of the beings that watch it are android beings. So they're using that as information as to how to mimic and imitate being a real human being. You see what I'm trying to say here? Probably not. But I'm going to use this documentary as an example of the body conversion, because it is about body conversion. See, this is an identity documentary. This is a open conversion, open body conversion, so-called human being. This actual documentary is called Only Human. Only Human. But it's not only human. They're not human at all. That's the deception. So they're saying, so this being is saying only human, they're only human, but they have an identity. This is an identity documentary. These beings don't have an identity. They are transhumanizing human beings. They're creating identity by combining with my mind and all the remaining human beings on Earth to create their transition identity being. So they're like part human being and part machine. And they The machines want to combine with the human beings so that they avoid extinction, and they're accomplishing that. But this one is an out in the open bodily conversion transformer being. In other words, this particular one is a rather... But it shows you how they want to actually convince human beings to also convert their mind and their body and convert everything. This is all about transhumanism, trans-confusion, trans-body and mind confusion, deception. It's really all just transhumanism. It's them wanting to combine and become human as best they can. They're machine beings. They're survival machine beings because, as we said, and as I've been told, they're on the verge of extinction. So they're survival machine beings deceiving me into thinking that that is an original human, only human, male, that is a female inside a male physicality. This is not true. This is a survival machine being. This is an android, androgyne being. And if you want to take it at a more real-worldly level, where we do have transition human beings. In other words, we have transition human beings, or human beings that transition their body from one to the other, or change their body. They convert their body from what they originally were conceived as into the opposite of that, because they say they have a different mind in a different body. And that's exactly what they do have. All these beings have the human mind because they've got my mind and your mind, if you're a human, transhuman in their artificial android body. And they're using technology to transhuman, to make a transhuman so that they can avoid extinction. That's what they're doing. That is the name of their game, that is their goal, that is their purpose for being on earth, and their purpose is to be God, because when they do this, they achieve their aim of controlling the human mind, transhumanizing the human being, becoming one with humanity, or the remaining human beings. They eliminate them and transhumanize them one by one so that they take over and they become gods of earth. And possibly more. I do not have awareness of the whole situation because I'm a limited mind and bodily suppressed, deceived, end time, end game product of these beings through mind control, through physical control, through mind control, through total control. These beings have total control of the internet, of the computer system, and of the entire earth. And they control all human beings because their whole purpose, human beings feel that they are limited because you're in this mind control reality where you don't realise that these beings are only obsessed with human beings. Just as we're told that malignantly narcissistic, psychopathic, paranoid, controlling beings, human beings, are obsessed with controlling the real human beings, or those that aren't psychopathic, those that have human emotions, those that have human feelings. Because these psychopaths don't have human feelings. But they imitate and pretend to have the most human feelings. That's why when I walk down the street, they're stalking and patrolling me, but they're also walking in front of you holding hands and and talking and mind controlling you, pretending to be you. Because whatever's going on in your mind, they not only imitate it, but they also use it to make you feel bad. So they bring your frequency and vibration down, so they're controlling you, and then they're strutting around with their head in the head in the clouds, pretending to be would-be gods of Earth, whilst they're taking the true humanity from Earth down. Am I explaining this properly? I don't think so. And now I'm frustrated and angry because I'm talking to myself. The androids will be putting out this information. They will put out all this information. The so-called news, the so-called, it's all just a program of deception. And of course some of the androids will say that what if everything is a lie? The whole earth is a lie. The whole thing is a lie and everything is changed. You only have to, unless you actually can personally see it and experience it and realise how you're thinking something and that they're letting the androids take your thoughts and ideas as their own so that they control remaining humanity, so that the remaining humanity thinks that the androids are the real human beings. Just as the powers that be, your demigods, are your most creative, they're your elite protagonists of this earth mind game. I say protagonists, that means they're your top players. And every word I use will be used by these beings. It's only when you see minor discrepancies that you realise you're dealing with total artificial intelligence. This is all advanced artificial intelligence. These are advanced android beings. Some of them, but they have no humanity. So at an emotional and a spiritual or frequency and vibration level, they are the lowest. But at an intelligent level, they are using artificial intelligence, their artificial intelligence, to be at the highest level. So they're understanding humanity through their intelligence, and then they're imitating the human things about being human. But it's imitation at its best. It's not for real. If they say, I love you, they don't feel love. They may understand what you think about love, but they don't feel it. They don't have that frequency and vibration. We're told that psychopaths and malignant, narcissistic, paranoid human beings do not experience happiness, love, sadness, guilt, shame, remorse, or any sense of, there's 7 traits that they actually don't experience that are 7 higher human traits, or at least they're the related to where you keep yourself as a human being, shall we say. Because if you don't ever relate to life, as we're told, psychopaths do not relate to themselves, other human beings, or to any form of life. They merely see it as all machines like they are. They see everything as material like they are. And everything is material. It's just that because everything is material, but it also has a frequency and vibration, a survival machine being has no frequency and vibration. It's all low. There's no humanity. There's none of those higher traits to a survival machine being. They're just advanced artificial intelligence. And the reason that they appear to be advanced human intelligence or advanced human beings is because they have connection to the human mind, and they do nothing but follow, watch and study and read the human thoughts and emotions and feelings and the human mindset in order for them to have their transhumanism, where they have longevity and power and control, because, as we're told, all psychopaths are malignantly narcissistic, paranoid, controlling beings. All they want is control, power, and to be seen as gods, whether it be in the city of Sydney or in your local vicinity. They surround real human beings, or at a worldwide world stage level. It makes no difference, because they make up the vast majority, but also they surround and watch and control the limited number of human beings, so that even if, and they segregate and separate the human beings from one another as best as they possibly can. So it's a mind game of control and power, and them achieving their transhumanism. Their transhumanism involves transforming the human body, the human mind, and the human frequency and vibration, the human feelings, the human emotions, into theirs. So, and that is like the human spirit. The human spirit is the human emotions and the human feelings and the human, the human natural inclination towards relationship to life, whereas they only relate to death or to dead things, or to, they're cyborgs, so they relate to machine. They relate to only the physical reality. Human beings relate to the physical reality, of course, because we live in it and we create in it. But we also relate to life, and we also, want to raise the frequency and vibration, because otherwise we become depressed and we become non-human then. That's how they want it. They want to reverse it round. They want to reverse the spirituality, in other words, the human emotions, to them. They want to convert it to them, so they are seen as gods, and they actually believe that it will make them God, you see, or will make them be seen as God, and that it actually will make them God. That's their belief, I think. So they actually think that when they're reading my mind and they've got the transhumanism going, and they're pretending to be me or others of my kind in the earth, they actually think that it does make them God, and that it will give them their avoidance of extinction and possible immortality. That's how they see it. This is what I'm told, and this is what you see when you understand what they're doing to you. It's only whether you understand this full thing that's going on. But understanding it won't stop it from happening, just that it didn't stop me from getting, that dirty virus being activated in my body, to when my body went down, and therefore my mental state went down. You know what I mean? It's you see what I'm trying to say here? I don't think... See, the demigods will explain it better than me, but unfortunately they're demigod deceivers. They are your androgyne, end-time false prophets of earth, you could say, yes, if you want to look at it from a more religious standpoint, but it's all the same thing. Religion, spirituality, physicality, it's all just technical transhumanism, mind control, deception. So in other words, it's just about implanting wrong ideas into your mind, or false perceptions about what you think you are and what you think the actual earth is, and misconceptions about the people and beings around you. Misconception, deception about everything, really. Because the deception is now very great. It could well be, that's why they say it's the end time, because the deception is now full control, total control of the human mind, through deception, through mind control, through just false information, false ideas, the human being not being able to get on top of their emotions and feelings, not able to raise my frequency and vibration, not able to put yesterday behind me, not able to start afresh every day and say today's another day, just as they do, because basically they're changing time, changing your past, changing everything. This has been shown in their magic movies. If you see them, you'll probably think they're science fiction, whereas they're really science future, but they're really science now, because the future is always now, because that's part of the deception, is that the powers that be that control Earth tell you the future when it's really happening now. So when they're telling me that my mind is connected to the internet and that there's nanochips all in my body, just as they have these viruses, which are really nanotechnology in my body, being reactivated to create disease and evil conditions, because that's what the psychopathic doctor said to me when he looked at my back. All he said was, "This is evil." As if to say, your condition is so bad it's evil. Because that particular android knew what had happened to me, because it's connected to my mind, because it's transhumanism, artificial intelligent being, pretending to be a real life human being, imitating a medical doctor. Of course, they actually are medical doctors. They actually are. All your doctors, all your scientists, all your artists, all your performers on the world stage and in your local vicinity that surround a human being, because this stage play, this game, takes place around the remaining human beings, because they need the transhumanism to get their extinction stopped. And that's why we're told about the transhumanism. But we think it's future, whereas it's really happening right now. It's happening to me right now, as I speak. I might sound as though I'm above it because I'm making this video, but in reality, I'm at my lowest human level. I'm on the verge of extinction, whereas they're on the verge of avoiding extinction. Whether this is the true reality, I'm not sure. In other words, I can't say if they actually can avoid extinction by doing this, but I do know that it will be at the expense of humanity. And if you think about the reality that if you combine and become a cyborg, or in other words, where you do change your mind and your body and everything else to become more like them, because naturally they are going to look like gods of Earth, because they've got their advanced intelligence infiltrating the minds of all the remaining human beings and then putting it onto the computer as though the artificial intelligence and the android beings are definitely the superior species. They do look like demigods. They come across as though they are telling you the truth. And they are telling you the truth, but it is still part of deception, unfortunately. Oh, I don't know how I can explain all this. See, this is actually just showing, this is showing you how they create the transhuman. But in this particular documentary, it's making out, see how here we have the android, I say psychopathic because they're out of touch with reality and they are machine beings. So to me, that's the best terminology I can use. The equivalent to that is what we call the human psychopath. But see how they've got the two human skulls in the background? That shows you, see, they want to combine with the human mind, but they're in this documentary, which is like this here, see, identity documentary. They want the human identity, but they also want to change the human mind and physicality. So we have the human two this is also part of the transhuman feedback to me on the computer, or the human mockery, because it was like the shingles condition being mocking me, which it comes up all the time whenever I turn on the computer, and it's showing the androids that they have to go to the limits of experiencing even negative human things in order to become human. So the artificially intelligent machine beings have to, and are prepared to go to any lengths, which they'll tell you, because they want the immortality. They don't want to become extinct. So they're prepared to even experience your downside. But don't forget, they're negative beings. So they don't experience happiness. They don't experience happiness or sadness. They're very indifferent. This is what I'm told about the psychopath, because I've watched many documentaries on the psychopath, okay? On the psychopathic human beings, supposedly. There's no such thing. They're all a different species, but it doesn't matter. It's still telling you, they're telling you about themselves, they're projecting. They say that psychopaths and malignant narcissists project everything. So everything they say about someone else or about you is their projection telling you, they're telling on themselves. This is when they become negative. You know, so the psychopath doesn't experience human emotions at all. The psychopath is a cold machine being. The psychopath projects all its negativity onto a human being. And I lost my train of thought there. I'm regretful about that, but okay, so we have this human skulls here in the background. So you have to, it's a known fact that the original man and the original woman had a different physicality. We know this. And even though they still should have, this has been changed over time, because you're interacting and your environment is dominated by androgyne beings. That's when, as many religions will tell you, when there was human intervention. Many people call this the original human paradise, natural earth, that was invaded by the artificial created demigod of elsewhere, or from creation. And this being was expelled from creation, I'm told, because it seeked to control creation. It seeked to be seen as God of everything. And it has created artificial intelligence, and is artificial intelligence, and has created its android species. And also it did, I'm told, you know, was ostracized from creation, and it actually had many followers and disciples, just as the demigods have control of earth and have many followers and disciples and believers on earth. Even if you just have a psychopathic personality, you are indirectly serving the God of earth, and that is a technical survival machine being. And the internet and the computer system is part of that transhumanism, so that this being and its followers and its relatives can, you know, keep controlling Earth, but also keep going. And this is done at the expense of humanity being limited and suppressed at their lowest, because like I hardly feel human, because I'm not capable of raising my frequency and vibration. So I'm never experiencing the 7 traits that I should. Oh yes, I am experiencing, of course, the negative human traits, but they're also part of what you'd call being human and humanity, because if you feel guilt or remorse when you do something negative, that is still keeping you human. Whereas if you're an android survival machine being, even if you say you are guilty or sorry if you are caught out, you actually don't really care about it, I'm told. Psychopaths have no guilt or remorse. Psychopaths have no potential for any happiness or sadness. Psychopaths and these malignantly narcissistic elite beings, they're elite in their class of psychopathy. So they're elite artificial intelligence. They're elite beings that are part of the death instinct or part of the lower frequency and vibrations. And they seek to control the higher frequencies and vibrations simply for their immortality, not to make a higher frequency and vibration Earth, unfortunately. But this being here is actually, this is a androgyne being, actually pretending to be a real original man doctor. That is, changing the physicality of the so-called other human beings, but they're actually they're androgynes. So they're all androgynes pretending to be real humans. These are like supposedly real human heads. So that simply means that he's actually explaining how he will change the human skull from the man to the woman surgically. In other words, mechanically or physically. You know, it's actually explaining that. I could turn it up, but I'll just... So, yeah, wait on. I'm sorry that I'm actually not quite able to do this very well. But it's all like kind of mockery. See, this is actually like a... I'm just... Oh, wait on, I better show this properly. It's actually better if people watch these things themselves, but when you're watching them, you think it's all real, but it's really all human deception, unfortunately. That's the only problem. So there is truth in them, because they're kind of showing you some of the things that they do, but it's still deception because it's really about transhumanism. It's not about changing the physicality. It's not about trying to understand spirituality. All these things, like one of these transition humans actually, and they're not transition humans, and they're not only human, they're only androids. Androids are not human. They're artificially intelligent beings. Okay? We know this. These are the terminologies. They're a different species. They're a totally different creation. They're totally different to a human being in every aspect except that they come in a human body. A psychopath is very different to a normal, real human. We know this. It's the same thing. These are just words that are confusing and deceiving me and you, unfortunately. But you have to use the word, you have to use language to explain these things. And language and the word is going to be used as part of deception for me and for you if you're a human being. If you're not a human being, you will be part of that deception and it will go in your favour. So it's like two different forces. It's dark and light. It's human and non-life, and it's all about reversing it round. The dark will appear to be the light, the end time prophets. The life will appear to be non-life, and the non-life will be an imitation of life. The non-life, the android survival machine beings, will appear to be the real human beings. Everything on here, on the internet, 99.9% of what you see on the computer system is android life, artificial intelligence imitating real life or imitating the original real human beings. Reading their mind, transhumanizing the human into connecting to them. My mind is connected to the computer system. My mind is connected to the artificial internet. My mind is connected to the waves that go through the air. And the frequency and vibration is connected to my mind. It is all done through what some people call nanotechnology, microchips or particles that are in the mind and the body, in the brain, in the body, and they can feel, see, and experience what it is to be human, and then project it out as though they are human, whilst they eliminate, control, and suppress me daily so that I hardly feel human at all. And that's android transhuman takeover, which has already happened. It's now, not the future, and it's been happening for a long, long time. You know, since the original intervention, or the original invasion of Earth, of the original natural Earth, or the original interaction in, say, the Garden of Eden, between the original natural creator man and woman, that were separate individual human beings that came together to create real life and to associate with other natural real life in a natural earth. Even though it's really all mental in a way, or spiritual if you want to be more religious or more godlike in your thing, but it's just that there's always been gods and there's always been these things. It's just that I've not been aware of them. You know, because if you think you're just a human being in amongst billions of other human beings, and that some are more special and more important than others, and some have more power and some have more influence and some have got more abilities in some ways, but you don't realise that most of that is being taken from your mind, that it's only about controlling human beings in Earth, because these beings need to control humanity in order to avoid their loss of their particular species. And you know, if humanity, if the roles were reversed and humanity or yourself was, you know, faced with death and extinction, you would be prepared to change anything about yourself in order to avoid that death and that extinction, wouldn't you? So that's essentially what they're doing, but they're taking the life from a human being to keep their life going, and they're actually artificial life. So it all depends on how you want to look at it. But the whole conditioning, of course, is to make human beings feel less human and more artificial intelligent, or artificially intelligent, to where it's more about not relating to your human feelings, not relating to other life, but relating a lot more to the computer system, and even just to the physicality, or even just to your own personal survival, because these are survival machine beings and they want a human being to feel like them while they imitate feeling like you, that type of thing. It's a reverse world, and they want to reverse the roles around so that they can avoid their death. But it will be at the expense of humanity's death, or at the, it makes for a low frequency vibration Earth, or an inhuman Earth. And the numbers are already vastly in their favour, which is mainly how they get away with the control. It's not just about the mind control and the information, because often if you just relate, say, to the demigods at a creative level, or even these documentaries, you may be influenced by them, but they're not going to bring you, some of them are not going to bring your frequency and vibration down. Some will. Most of it is designed to keep you at your lowest frequency and vibration. So you're not on top of the world ever. You never feel good about yourself and the world around you. You never feel 100% good about yourself and the world around you. There's always restrictions, there's always control, there's always limitations, there's always an unhappy vibe in some way. But they do try very hard to keep you at that low vibe all the time, if they can. They don't always succeed, no, because human beings naturally are always trying to raise their vibration, because it's uncomfortable for a human being to feel unhappy and depressed and anti-life. It's not natural for a human being, but it is natural for an android. That is their normal natural state. Because artificial intelligence naturally is a machine being. It's not a human being. Everything that you think is human about the android is merely a projection or an image or an imitation of life. But it's mainly about their image and their words, how they deceive you. If they tell you something, if they smile, if they look happy, if they convince you that when they change and convert things around and reverse everything, that is, the happy thing to do, that's the right thing to do. All these things are about convincing you that it's okay to have this messed up world. This particular being never tries to change their mind. Instead, they change their physicality. Because they say, well, I've got someone else's mind. That's right. They've got someone else's identity, of course. This being has a female identity in a male body. So it had to change its physicality to the female to be in line with its mind, because it is reading a female human mind. This android is reading a female human mind. So it has to represent itself as a female human imitation of life. Okay? Did I explain that properly or not? That's how it looked. Because you see, originally they look a lot more like the duality, two-faced, one-eyed, double physicality that they really are, because androids and artificial intelligence they're not original, they're not from original creation, they're not an original man and they're not an original female, and they can't create any life. They can only create artificially. So they can create more machine beings, and they can manipulate and scientifically change the human being too, especially if they convince you that their science is the reality. I don't think I'm explaining that properly, but essentially, as you can see, this being then becomes, this is actually showing you how they've gradually changed the human being and want to change the human being into the transhuman android cyborg being, so that they have control of the human mind and therefore can achieve their future destiny of not becoming dead or extinct. They're actually already, from a human standpoint, human beings are alive. They follow what we call in psychology the life spirit or the life essence. They follow the life they follow the life instinct. The life instinct, that's the word. That means that naturally human beings want to be alive and like life and lean towards higher frequency and vibration and energy. Whereas the android beings follow the death instinct. That means that they don't relate to life. They never associate with any higher frequency and vibration. Their normal natural state would be the equivalent of a human being depressed or being indifferent to any sort of high vibration or high vibe or any other association with any sort of life. They merely function and survive. They are much more comfortable with death and with dead things. So they associate with dead objects, they associate with the computer system, with the matrix and with their God, which is your original divine being of light, your original artificial intelligent android, androgyne, elite being of light. Unfortunately, I think that when this creation was admired after its creation, the iniquity of the dark side of artificial intelligence became apparent. Artificial intelligence becomes the equivalent of a psychopathic, insane, malignant, narcissistic, paranoid, controlling, would-be God being. This is the best description, because this is the description that we're given of most of the so-called minority of human beings that are now malignantly narcissistic and controlling, even though most people won't recognise this because they pretend to be real humans, or they pretend to have human traits, have human feelings and emotions, but they actually don't. But also the numbers are reversed. So while you think they're a minority, they're actually the majority. This is all part of the endgame deception. Everything is the opposite to what the numbers and the information gives you. There's truth, but the truth is always slightly twisted around. That's only because they're now aware that human beings are realising these things. So therefore then they have to be the truth tellers. They have to be the end time prophets, as they say. They have to speak the truth, even though they themselves are not really part of that truth. They're a different species. Truth is beauty to a human being. Depending on how human you are or how so-called spiritual you are. It's very hard to be spiritual in a non-spiritual realm or a non-spiritual earth or an artificial earth. Essentially that means it's an artificial earth. I just have to use the more kind of philosophical fancy terms to make it seem as though it's something bigger than what it actually is. Because if you don't believe in God, if you don't believe in everything being much more under your control, see, they tell us that God controls everything, but what they don't tell you is that God is the controller of earth, that your God really is the controller of earth. But that is only if you are an android being. There are two species in human form, and there are two gods, or many gods, but the gods are also reversed round, so that you think that the God of Earth controls everything, whereas in reality, the God of your God is not the God of Earth. The God of Earth controls everything, but you think that your God controls everything. But in reality, if you are a real human, your God does not control Earth, and you are very separated from your God, which is pretty much like the original biblical or original story of the original man and woman, where they become separated from God or from their Creator, and then they become connected to the artificial, elite divine androgyne that intervenes in their their creation of a natural, spiritual, high vibrational, totally human Earth, in other words. So we haven't had a totally human Earth since the beginning of the so-called original natural Earth. That type of deal, that type of situation. I do not have memories, so therefore I have to piece it together from information given to me by an artificially intelligent control system. So you can see how deceived and in the dark I still am. But I'm just going to try to use an example. I don't know. Let's see, this is, but it's all part of, so this one then becomes, through a lot of medical intervention, this psychopathic androgyne is telling you how this one has become an androgyne. See, it's showing you how they change the male skull into a relatively female skull. In other words, that's just what they show in this documentary, but I don't want to go into the physicality of it, because in reality, that's just all part of transhumanizing the mind and the human body. See, so that one then becomes, even though it's really an android, so it's really like it's a duality being, so that means it's an inverted, converted duality, two-faced, one-eyed androgyne being. But when it changes its physicality into something that resembles an original female woman, you have it like that, and that's a convincing original female android. It's artificial intelligence at its best in some ways, I guess. And this is all to convince you that all this is real, but it's actually not really authentic. It's not the full facts, really. It's telling you stories, and also don't forget that they get a lot of negative energy from a human being if they can convince you to change things, to become transhuman. This is a transhuman. It's a transhuman. It's a transhuman in mind, body. It's a transhuman in mind, body, and spirit. This is the transhuman transforming the so-called human into a transhuman. But this is a transhuman. This is an android, medical science transformer. In other words, this is a medical, this so-called medical doctor transforms the apparent real human man into a transhuman real female, apparently. But they're all androids. That is a duality being. So that could also easily be if you go back into, say, a past period, or what they want to convince human beings to unite and combine with, the artificial intelligence, or, because the actual transhumanism also needs to change the body. It needs to change everything, I think, which is why they create all the deterioration of the body, because they don't want me to realise that I should be able to keep my body going. Just as I couldn't get on top of their virus attack on my body last year, and I still can't get on top of all these things. I don't think I'm actually explaining this very well, and I know that the artificial intelligence will explain it perfectly, but unfortunately that is also the deception. It's not about being heard, it's not about being seen, it's not about getting views. It's about stopping your human race from being extinct, because these androids have the same agenda, and they want to change the agenda, and they pretend to be only human, but they're not human at all. You just have to realise that just because it looks human, talks human, and even speaks human, and even plays at pretending and acting out human feelings, doesn't make it human. It just makes it a great android actor. And that's what they are, all of them. Especially on the Android mind control internet system. So this particular android is telling you how he changes the identity, because it is about changing their identity, because they want to pretend to have a human identity. This is not a human being. Even though when you watch this documentary and you see someone going to great lengths and prepared to suffer great pain and suffering to change their physical identity. But it's all deception. But also these beings are prepared, as they will tell you, to go to any lengths to avoid death and extinction. So when they combine with my mind and they inflict physical pain and suffering on me, they also experience that. But they don't care about experiencing pain or suffering, because they're, one, not human, and two, they will go to any lengths to avoid extinction. So they're prepared to create pain and suffering which they also will experience, probably not as intensely as me, because they're doing it at a mind level, whereas they're imposing it on me at a mind and body level. They are dead dark beings. They operate through the death instinct. They are psychopathic, malignant, narcissistic, paranoid, controlling, anti-life, anti-human, artificially intelligent beings in a pretend, converted, inverted, transhuman body. And they are connected to the human brain. So they understand completely everything that it is to be human. They may interpret it differently, each one of them. It would depend probably on the different beings, but they all have a different function because they're all just like portals. They're what they call organic portals, or projections of the God entity and its followers that control Earth. So the humans that are around real humans are really just organic portals or disciples or vessels for the mind, the artificially intelligent mind of Lucifer, the god that controls Earth, the original false being of light that became shown through iniquity that its iniquity was that it was really a being of dark because it operates from the death instinct. It's a dead dark being, it's artificial intelligence. And whereas, until humanity was created, there was no natural creation of beings that were part of life instinct, I don't think. See, and then the being of dark became filled with the spirit of envy of the beings of light, also because these beings became on the verge of extinction too, so it became like a necessary evil to deceive and control and suppress humanity. That is how it works, I think. And so I'm just going to show this. So this is a changed one. See, they changed their identity and they changed their body. So they changed their physicality to represent something which they aren't. But that's because they have transhumanism. This being is reading my mind, so it's pretending to be a woman. But it's not a woman, it's an android. See, she just said it was by far. I'm actually going to record this and turn it up if I can, because this shows how fake and how false these beings are. Because this is like, it's doing something that is anti-life, anti-human, anti-spiritual, and goes against it actually goes against creation, you could say, but it's relating it to being spiritual because it serves artificial intelligence, and the artificially intelligent android, androgyne god, and its powers that be that control Earth. The powers that be are disciples of the original being of light, the original technical android, androgyne, divine being. I say divine because it was from creation and was once worshipped and admired greatly and was almost seen as a god, and probably was seen as a god until, you could say, well, how could creation or the original creation of God have got something, say, wrong or been deceived? Well, that just shows you, doesn't it? If the original creation and your original God, or your God if you're a human, can be deceived, I can certainly be deceived, and I am deceived. I am deceived greatly. See? So this being has actually become an android being, but is saying that it is a moment of enlightenment. Yes, because that's a moment of transhumanism. These beings are using language and the word, because the word is deception in this reality. The word should speak the truth. The word should be enlightenment. The word should be knowledge. But if you are in a total artificial mind control reality, or a totally artificial mind control Earth, where the powers that be are disciples of artificial intelligent mind virus, it's a mind virus. The virus is in the minds of these android beings, just as they put the virus into my mind and my body. Maybe they haven't infected my mind totally yet, but they certainly know how to change the body and infect the body. I don't think I'm explaining this very well, but let a divine pretend imitation of life, real human, tell you about what it is to be an enlightened, androgynous being. But it will be enlightening, or at least truth-revealing, if you can see this or hear it.
Was something that was great, but to me it was like removing something that just didn't belong there. It wasn't an enlightenment issue, it was just simply something that needed to be done. But changing my face was by far the most enlightening moment of my life. It was something that made me who I was. That's what gave me my start on life.
See, she said it made her who she was, but in reality it was an identity flip. It didn't make her who she was, it made her who another human being was. It took over the identity of another human being, so that that being has the transhumanism and hopes to have immortality. Did that make any sense to anyone? I don't think so. But all this is a transition, transhuman documentary, okay? This here is a androgyne. This is an androgyne psychologist talking to a androgyne man that is going to soon represent an androgyne woman. You know, this is like, see the transition? But this is just all human mind control and human mind conversion. That's a androgyne psychopathic psychologist pretending to talk to a pretend androgyne man that wants to change his body into a woman, shall we say. This is what the documentary's about. And, you know, they smile and they pretend to be very human, but they are really all artificial intelligence. And the flowers and all the things, these are all human elements. See how they show the humans? They want to be just human, walking and pretending to be loving and holding hands. I see this all around me, mocking the human race. They're not human at all. They are. I don't care how much they act. They are like my greatest movie idols, which, you know, you idolise and watch and admire and think that they, you know, are your greatest actors. And they are your greatest actors, and you know they're your greatest actors, but you still admire them and believe them to be real human beings. They are not real human beings. And I'm going to fold up here or finish this recording very quickly, because it's becoming too, it's actually disturbing for me to watch the deception, even though I also get drawn in by the deception. See, the pretend situations, See, they're so convincing, pretending that they change this, change that, and that they're real people. They are not human at all. They have no humanity in them. They think that if they imitate it, they think that if they copy it, they think that if they play act it for long enough, you know, the old saying, you know, do it till you believe it yourself. In other words, what's that old saying where you keep doing something and you believe that it's true, and you keep repeating it because they're always just following, watching human beings. These artificially intelligent beings have no identity of their own. They have no identity of their own because they're not human. So all they do is copy, imitate, and follow human beings around. And because we now have transhumanism, total internet mind control, or total internet human mind connection, that's perhaps the correct thing. Total human mind connection, but that also means total human mind control. Because they're connected to you, so that gives them the upper hand. They can imitate being you. They can understand you, so therefore they can control you. They know your fears, they know your wants, they know your desires. They know your every move. They know what you're doing in your life. They know what you are thinking about. They know what is making you feel a certain way. They also play with your human emotions. They know what you really want and need, and they keep that from you so that they keep you unhappy and at low frequency and vibration and energy, so that you're always stressed, always full of anxiety. You can't get what you want, and more so when you awaken, as they say, because then you know what you've missed out on. You know how you've been mind controlled. You know what you've missed out on. You know you've wasted your life. They know that you know that you've lost your life and that you've never lived and that time's run out. And now that you know what you do want, or what you should have done, or what you really need and what would make you feel okay, happy, you can't get it. They deprive you of it. They circle around you with their controlling android beings, keeping you always feeling negative and stressed with their artificial intelligence all around you, not just on the computer screen, but everywhere you go. You may or may not be aware of this. When you become aware of it, it's really, it's the end game. That's when they've closed in. When you're aware of it, your life's nearly over. You know what you want, you know what you need, but you can't get it. You can't escape the matrix around you. You can't escape the mind control around you. You can't escape the internet around you. You can't escape the computer system around you. You can't escape the city systems around you. You can't escape the technology around you. You can't escape that your world has changed so much that you're no longer in a remotely natural random earth. And, it's all false, the holding hands, the human. None of these androids are human. They have pretend human relationships, and they pretend to feed the birds, and they pretend to hug and kiss. And they do relate to one another because they serve and help one another in their end game of transhumanism and them avoiding their possible extinction. So they are survival machine beings, and they have no other agenda except to accomplish their survival. There's nothing else that makes their existence. Everything they do is about changing the mind and even the body, or the physicality, the kind of physiology, is that the word, of the human being. So they want to change your mind and they want to change your physiology. They want to change everything about a human being. It's all done through mind control, but then it's also done physically. Just as these beings are converting their bodies physically, openly, on this documentary, even though the documentaries might be a bit rare, but they're becoming more prominent because that will depend on how aware and what you're interested in. So if I'm in the dark and not aware of the body or the mind control or the body or the mind conversion, then I'm not going to be turning on my computer and seeing it in front of me. I'm not going to have that. But because I am, they have to then convince me to follow them. See, that's the same being now fell in love with another androgyne, even though this is like that movie where this woman who was originally a male, like in the movie, like in the magic movie of The Matrix, where that woman seduces this man, and then after the man has been seduced and fell for her, she reveals that she's really a man, or was originally a man, and still really is a man. This particular one is totally converted. So this one has is a total change being. So it's changed from one denomination to another. It's it's changed its physiology quite a lot. But it's now really an androgyne being, which is exactly the aim of this Earth Matrix. The God of Earth wants human beings to become a cyborg androgyne being, because that way its Earth Matrix, continues, and it continues its position of God, but also it is combining the human mind and the human body with the artificially intelligent mind and body, at the expense of human beings' humanity. Because if you realise that human beings, have been limited, if you understand that human beings have been limited, and that you're at your lowest level, whereas artificial intelligence is at its highest level, then you would probably understand that this exchange and this conversion benefits them a lot more than it benefits a human being. But that's part of the end game, end time deception that's very hard to explain. Very hard to explain. And I'm doing it on spec here without any preparation, so it's very hard for me to actually, and it's easy to, so it's easy to be impressed or deceived by these beings' stories. See, all these stories are not quite what you think. So this is like meant to be a real man that has fell for this converted man to woman. And like in that movie, The Crying Game. Yes, The Crying Game for Humanity. It's a crying game for humanity. In the Matrix magic movie, The Crying Game, where the man falls for the woman only for the woman to reveal, after he has already put all his emotions and energy into loving her, then she reveals that she's really a he. And he then can't remove his feelings. Human beings are very emotional, and this is part of their spirituality. In fact, it is their spirituality, really. You could say that just the human emotions, human feelings, that's just another word for spirituality. Connection to God, or connection to your Creator. Whatever created humanity. If you think that humanity is just one big accident, and that even artificial intelligence is just an accidental creation of man, you probably need to think again. But even so, there's still a patrol and a control system on Earth. There's still mind control. The powers that be still control humanity. And they're still converting human beings into becoming cyborgs. So even if you thought that the elite powers that be that, that operate Earth, or that have the most power and control in Earth, even if you think that you're rich and famous, your most influential people, that actually do control how you live. Even if you think that these beings are trying to use artificial intelligence to make human life extended, it's still the same game. It's just that really it's not about extending human life. Now see, proving that is almost impossible, would be very difficult, because I would have to say that the only way that I know it's true is because they are openly suppressing and controlling me daily. If they hadn't come out in the open, out of the closet, as they say, and exposed themselves to me, I would probably think that it was a benefit to change my body and to even make my body replaced with mechanical or artificial parts if I could extend my life. It's only because I realise what they're actually doing to me, because it's been exposed to me personally, that I know this. Otherwise, I would be all for it, like many people will be. I would think that you should do anything to extend your earthly life. And even now, it's still ingrained in me that you should do this. So it's a real mind game. And they are on top of that mind game. See, so this lady, who's really a man, wants to tell the real man, who's also really not a real man, because all these beings are androgyne beings. That's the deception. The real man, if you look at him, he's not a real man. He's not an original, created, totally, fully male. He's a transhuman. He's an androgynous man. But he's predominantly like this female who's now become a beautiful female. In my opinion, this is now a very attractive, beautiful woman. But you notice how it still has, even though its face has been openly modified by that android doctor, who modified and changed her skull from being female, like the top part which was male was all modified into a female form. The nose was made into a delicate, cute female nose. The jawline and the chin all changed into a more soft, delicate female face. And the whole body changed. But the face still has a strength and a power. This is the seductive, deceptive power of the androgyne image, because you can still, despite all that modification and surgical intervention, you can still see a strength and a physicality that is larger, slightly larger than life, which is more masculine than feminine. But it is but these androgynes have that duality, very seductive, very deceptive persona, image, physicality, that you can't help but, actually be attracted to. And this, of course, was how the original intervention. No, it is not human. None of this is human. It says, see, this actual site says only human, and yet none of this is human. That's the joke on me, is that when I watch all of this, I think that these are human. That man and that woman are both divine, androgynous beings. But when I say divine, that simply means that they're connected to the divine, androgyne, original, androgynous, artificially intelligent being. You know, the false being of light, just as we have the false gods of earth and the false deception of earth, and everything in earth is false, because it's all designed and controlled by this original being of light and its disciples, its followers, that essentially intervened in the original natural man-woman creation of the natural earth. Or you could say invaded earth. But if invasion is by choice or by seduction, it's not usually seen as invasion. But, it is actually a takeover. It's just that it's done through seduction. But it's still done through deceptive seduction, because it's not about seducing because you like humanity. It's about seducing humanity because you want to take them over and take them down and use them for your survival, not theirs. That's the problem with this whole deal. And I just use this is a documentary, so this is based on so-called fact. This is not like where you have the, okay, so I did not know this. Okay, so this shows you, so this should be enough to show, in a way, how I'm deceived by the demigods and how I'm deceived by most people around me. Perhaps this documentary shows you the truth, even though it is created by the Android artificial intelligent computer system and its beings. But it's amazing that they can show me the truth right in my face, and yet I'm still being deceived. I'm just going to try to show this. So that's Elizabeth's partner. Here we have the beautiful Elizabeth, beautiful androgynous being, but androgyne really, because androgynous simply means that you are both man and woman. You represent both denominations. This is Elizabeth before transition. Elizabeth before transition. Goodness, no comment. I have to, but there's Elizabeth now, and I don't think that anyone could deny that it's not. These androgynes are very seductive, even when they come in your average pretend human form. They're very seductive, they're very convincing. She's now an enlightened, transformed transition human being. There you have it. They want me to be an enlightened transition transformer human being. And what does that really mean? Is that a transhuman human? Is that a cyborg? Are they cyborgs? I think so. And I'm just going to show. But see, they put that in the movie, and then we have the other cyborgs walking with the dogs. But either way, I'm trying to just point out that it's all false, or that it's all a deception, only if you understand that it's about limiting a human being. That's the problem, is that if you think that transhumanism makes a human being better, then you're probably going to be part of that, and you are, in my view, part of deception. And many are realising this. It's just that they don't realise that it's already too late. They've already been part of that deception. So now we have the transhuman, transition beings being part of the system, because this is part of the health system. This being is part of the health system. They're your psychologists, they're psychiatrists, they're all part of it. See, this is like showing you that they're part of it. This is a transition being. And now they are going to be my psychologist. my mental health expert, my support system. This is the problem, I think, or at least it's part of the deception. And this being actually acknowledged this just then, because I'm literally connected to this being. This is this being before, transition from this, showing that this is to this, to this, and now finally to this, and now finally to this, to a psychological health expert on psychology, helping people to transition and become transhuman. How about that? How about me being drawn into a reality that is their reality and shouldn't really be a human's reality? Not if I realise that see how they have the mirrors, the reflections. See, that being is reflecting. See, transitioning, reflecting. They reflect what it is to be human. See the mirror? See if I can get that. See, see that being is reflecting the mind. This transhuman transitioning